Hello, welcome to The Empathy Machine. My name is Ben and today I'm bringing you my first review from this YouTube channel. Today I'm going to be reviewing Saint Maud. Now, Saint Maud is a psychological British horror movie from writer and director Rose Glass in her feature directorial debut. It stars Morfydd Clark as a highly religious hospice nurse who becomes slightly obsessed with a new terminally ill patient in her care. Now, I won't say too much more because I don't want to get into spoilers and I think it's best going into this film cold, but I will say that the film does deal with themes of psychological horror, body horror and themes of religion. It's a film about faith, about redemption and about how madness and spirituality can sort of become entwined. So to provide some context, I went into this movie knowing two things. One, it was a horror movie, and two, it was meant to be really good. So I went into this movie with like medium expectations. I hadn't seen a trailer, I'd barely seen a poster. I knew it was meant to kind of be scary and I'd heard a lot of people on Twitter raving about it, but that's about it. So I went into the film with those sorts of expectations. Now, in terms of positives, I think the film's atmosphere and tone are really, really good. The film reminded me of things like Under the Skin or Prevenge, the film where Alice Lowe is pregnant and her unborn baby is telling her to kill people. Also, in terms of themes, it reminded me of The Exorcist because obviously it deals with religious themes of faith and stuff like that. So it does this brilliant thing which I think a lot of really good horror movies do, in that it's really ambiguous as to what's going on. It asks you all these questions like, is this real? Can you believe what you're seeing? But I think it's that ambiguity that makes it all the more powerful in the end, because you don't quite know what's going on. I feel like maybe in the end you do get an answer, and I don't know if that's intentional on the film's part or not, but there is a moment where you kind of, maybe it clicks in your brain what this is, because before that it's all uncertain. And that's the beautiful thing about the film, is that it is uncertain, that it's more creepy and weird because you don't quite get it, you don't quite get what's going on. I didn't love the film, but I really appreciated it for this, and it builds up this really interesting tone and this really interesting atmosphere. I think it is phenomenally directed. I thought some of the shots, some of the compositions were so beautiful, and the cinematography as well. I feel like Rose Glass really has a knack for this sort of thing, even though it's her first film. It's set in this kind of weird location. It's like a coastal town in Britain, and there's a big amusement sort of arcade there, and every time the main character Maud walks past that, it's lit up with all the neon lights and stuff, and it really sort of casts a light onto the esplanade and the beach. And I think it's really beautiful and it's really pretty. I love that sort of visual style, and it's a real juxtaposition from the kind of dark creepiness of the house that she's working in with this terminally ill lady called Amanda. And the film's got this really kind of uneasy and arresting tone. As I said, it's a bit like Under the Skin in that matter. And I think all this uneasiness is built around Maud herself. She's a character we don't really know, we don't really understand. There are hints of her backstory, of something that happened in her past. She meets up with a friend who kind of asks her these questions about how she's doing now and stuff like that. And it's all uneasy because we don't quite get it. Morfydd Clark herself is brilliant because she makes you care about her, but she also kind of makes you scared of her. Like, you sympathise, yet if you saw her in real life you'd probably run the other way. She's so good in that, but she's also really good at all the kind of body horror elements. I won't go into them too much, but she's able to produce kind of ecstasy and agony in the same sort of facial expression. She's really good at it. She's fantastic. I think the film's also got this kind of similarity to Phantom Thread in terms of its atmosphere and tone. I mean, Phantom Thread's not a horror, but it is psychological, and I think it's got that sort of similarity. It's also set in kind of like a British seaside town, which Phantom Thread kind of was. There's also a way about how the kind of old world and the modern world intersect. You have the old house, which is kind of a bit creepy and a bit rickety. It's not very modern. And then you have all the hustle and bustle of people outside on their phones, living their lives, you know, the neon lights and stuff. And Maud is, you know, very old-fashioned. She's a very old-fashioned person. She wears old-fashioned clothes. And Amanda, who is the terminally ill patient, she's always on her phone. And I think that's kind of like, there's a balance there between Catholicism and atheism, and that this kind of old world idea in this new world, and it's kind of and the whole film is about that sort of balance, really. Also, I kind of respect how this film kind of just took its time telling its story. It didn't quite work for me. but I think I appreciated how it wasn't just trying to go in with jump scares and stuff straight away. It kind of built up the atmosphere and the tension just slightly, bit by bit, and I really appreciated that. Also, I like the score. It's got no discernible theme, but I think it's all sort of tone and mood, and sort of it captures these ideas of howling winds and demonic snarls in a way that's sort of really foreboding and effective. I think Jennifer L is also fantastic as the dying and very depressed Amanda who is under Maud's care. She can be really acerbic, but we can also understand the hurt she is going through. I think it's a really complex character, and I think the places it goes are really interesting. As I said, this film is kind of about faith and about the complex nature of struggling to find redemption. I love the way it's depicted throughout, and I can't really go into it in detail until I get to the spoiler section, but in terms of arresting imagery, the final 5 minutes of this film are just absolutely phenomenal. So I don't want to go into the negatives too much, because I do think this is a good film. I just don't think it was for me. The first half is quite slow, although I think it is also quite considered, and I respect that it took the time to develop these characters. I just think that the way the story is told, it just didn't quite capture me in a way that I wanted it to. That's of course not a fault of the movie. I thought it was a good movie, it just didn't wow me. So this is the segment where I talk about spoilers in specific detail. If you want to skip this part, then I suggest you go into the description and click on the timestamp. I'm also going to give you a 5-second warning. So 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. It's spoiler time. That ending though, Amanda's, I guess, transformation was a really horrifying and brilliantly creepy moment. The way she kind of becomes a devil and starts kind of taunting Maud about sort of her faith and losing her faith, and it's a really, really scary moment, and I was kind of like, that was when I was on the edge of my seat. But again, it's also kind of ambiguous as well as super horrifying. Is Amanda the devil, or is she possessed, or is Maud possessed? Is Maud an angel, or is she mentally ill? I think in the end, as we see at the end of the film, when she kind of sets herself on fire, and there is a brief moment where just before it cuts to black, we just see her burning and just screaming in agony and pain. It's kind of like Inception, in which he spins the spinning top and you're like, is he awake or is he in a dream? And then at the last second you just see it wobble slightly to indicate something, maybe that he is actually awake. And I think it's kind of the same with this, in that she pours this fluid over herself and sets herself aflame, and in her mind she's thinking of being taken up to heaven as an angel, but then it just cuts just for a second to her burning in agony, and it's going, yeah, this is all in her head. She is imagining the voice of God to deal with this traumatic incident in her past job when she perhaps accidentally killed a patient. I think that's what it's implying, especially with the scene when she's having sex with that guy and she imagines like accidentally breaking his like rib cage. I think the film builds suspense really, really well, and the voice of God is a really eerie choice. I often find with these sorts of horror films, when you have the voice of God or the voice of devil, that it's always so creepy and it really gets to me. Like, I'm not religious, but I love films that deal with this sort of stuff. I remember at the end of The Witch, in which you hear the voice of Satan, I think in the hut at the end, and it's just so creepy and so well done, and I just love this sort of thing. And so when you heard the voice of God in Latin, I was just there. I was kind of captivated with that. I just love that sort of stuff. But yeah, I thought this film was pretty good. I really liked it in terms of its themes of redemption and faith and religion versus atheism and stuff like that. I think the last 10 minutes are really fantastic. I think they are exciting, and they really nail home kind of what the film is trying to say about those subjects and those themes. Morfydd Clark is fantastic, and it is a really good directorial debut from Rose Glass. All in all, I think it's a quietly compelling film, but not compelling enough for me, I think. It has some fantastic moments, some brilliant imagery, but I wasn't enraptured by it. I do, however, want to see it again. I would like to see it now without any kind of presumptions about what to expect. But yeah, I thought it was pretty good. I think it's 3 out of 5 stars for me. But yeah, this is it for my review, my first review on this channel for Saint Maud. Yeah, this is my first try at sort of filming it and putting it out on YouTube like this. So yeah, please let me know what you think and tell me how I can improve in the future. Yeah, I think it's just about remembering the script or just trying to think of what I want to say beforehand. I find it quite hard. I need to get used to it. I need to learn it. You can find me on Patreon. I have a Patreon page under Ben Murray Holmes. I'll pop that link in the description. If you want to support me, if you want to support my work, the work that I do, then that would be really, really terrific. Yeah, I also have a podcast called TV Therapy, in which I speak to various people about the TV shows that they love. You can find that on most podcasting platforms, but I'm going to put some links in the description down there. But as for today, thank you very, very much for watching me, guys. This has been The Empathy Machine. My name is Ben, but I'll see you all later. Bye.